we're on the downhill stretch. At least I hope to think that we're on the downhill stretch. We are putting on the front end, and that's what we're gonna really try and focus on in this video, is getting the front end together, you know, all dialed in, all good, because we really want to take this thing to dyno really soon. So we're gonna get the front end on it. We're gonna focus on getting everything that it needs to be running onto the car. We need coolant in order for it to run. We need the wiring to be finished in order for it to run, and a few other miscellaneous stuff that in order for it to run so we could take it to the dyno. So everybody, welcome back to the ZHP Garage. Hope you guys are all doing well. And I know it's been a while. It's always a while in between Nova videos. This thing is hard to get to quite often with our current schedule, but we're getting around to it and we're excited to see it come together. It is coming, it's 100% coming together how we envisioned. So that's always good to see your builds come together the way you envisioned it, you know? So we're going to put together the front end in this video, like I already said. That's our main focus. But first, before we do that, I want to show you the piece of paper hanging over here on the wall, because in the last video, we got a lot of things checked off of this list. So let's take a look at the list right now, and I can show you what we're talking about. So the master mechanic decided to throw Dave's 67 C10's engine into the garbage again. So I had to pull it out and put it back right here. So sorry, Dave, for all the abuse to your engine. But anyways, so this is our list. So we haven't touched block of plate or tunnel yet, but if you saw the last video, we put the whole entire rear suspension together. So this is getting crossed off of the list. It just needs to be adjusted, which we will be doing here very shortly. We haven't touched the wiring. The drive line did get shortened. We did that very recently. We sent that thing off and we got it back. We haven't put it in the car yet, but it is shortened. So I'm gonna cross it off the list here. We haven't touched the exhaust yet, but we're gonna be doing that very soon. Install fuel tank and pump, haven't done that yet. Run fuel lines and brake lines. So now that the rear end's in the car, we're gonna be able to run the brake line, but we haven't gotten around to that yet. We set the car on the ground. That was a huge achievement. Huge step forward was setting the car on the ground. Paint the underside of the car. We haven't done the whole entire underside. We've only done part of it, so I'm not gonna cross that off yet. That's about it so far. We're definitely gonna be crossing this one off because we're gonna be finishing this in this video, and will probably pertain to this as well. That's what we have to cross off, which is actually huge. It's huge getting the rear suspension back in the car, and it's huge setting the car on the ground for the first time in a long time. We're gonna get with the master mechanic, and he's gonna talk to us about this front suspension, because there's a lot of things. There's stuff with the AC. We have to mount stuff for the AC, and the fitment of these aftermarket panels don't really fit too well. And I'm talking about the inner fenders and just other odds and ends, man. We're gonna check this whole thing out. It's gonna be a big video, so let's get started right now.
What's going on, YouTube? We're back here with this nice Nova again, 65. Got the core support back for it. We're gonna put the front end together here. We're gonna get going. We're gonna open this up. We got the fan, we got the radiator, we got the overflow, we got all kinds of stuff. We're gonna try to put the front of the car together. We're all excited now. We got it on the ground. Gotta get it complete, man. Gotta get a dyno. So let's open this thing up and check it out. See what we're working with. We got it powder coated. I have to use my trusty knife here. Oh! Way better than what it was, huh? Remember before? Gonna have to clean these threads out. If you ever had anything powder coated, you know how that goes. And we just wound up doing some simple mounts here for the radiator. Show that here in a little bit. We got a couple things done to it. Just trying to keep the mess off of it with everything else going on. What do you think? What do you think? Look any different? Still looks amazing. A couple things that we got done. I got the air filter on it. It's kind of sagging down now because pushing on the cover, but got the heater hoses on it. Like the way that turned out. I think that's about the only. We started the power steering lines. We got the return line onto the rack to the reservoir here, and then we're working on the pressure line. So I'm just going to take this pressure line off, and if you ever do these power steering, the pressure deal, this isn't a normal braided line. This is the one with the Teflon. It's got the Teflon inside of it, so it handles the higher pressure. So you can't just use any old braided line on your power steering for your pressure line. The return's okay to use. So we're gonna take this tape off here. I used it to put the core support on here, check the radiator and everything fitment, but now we're gonna put it on permanent. Configuration gets changed a little bit. Using an aftermarket front end, you don't use all the bolts that originally you would use. Just use the two here, none of the ones on the inside. Where originally went to the factory like strut tower front end unibody deal. Try to slide it on here carefully, not scratch it up. And we're just using the bolts, and I'll show you in a minute. These are the bolts that are actually supposed to be used for the inner fenders, but got a little mishap with that, so we got to change that around a little bit. But we're going to use the bolts that came with the inner fenders to hold down the core support here. And this is a pretty tight fit. Gonna have to work for it. I'm gonna leave those loose, and I'm gonna start the bottom two here. Only the four bolts now to hold the core support to the new subframe, and then the inner fenders is what everything else ties it together. But for the most part, that's all that's used here. So this radiator came with these holes in here already, and I mean it's pretty good. I didn't want to weld anything on the side or do anything crazy, so I just did the little mounts here. I welded these on just like a bolt, and put these little 1/4-inch Allens through here and just mount it up. Just a simple way, top and bottom. So it has 4 mounting points, and it's not a lot of weight. You know, it's just aluminum radiator. So that's the way we're mounting this guy. So I'm just getting him started because it's a really snug fit going through here. Let's see if our calculations are correct here. See if it fits. So I'm going to go ahead and just put a washer on the inside. I'm going to use a lock washer because it's a smaller guy. Tight fit though. We got a lot going on in front of this little car. All right, look there. The radiator in it fits perfect, man. Just like it was made for the car. It's really weird. So here is where we're going to use. We're going to put a fitting in here, and this is where we're going to come for our steam hose. It's going to come around to here. I think I'm going to hold off on this intake a minute. I want to put the inner fenders on it so I know where this is going to be, because it might push it back this way a little bit before I get any further along. So one of the problems that we ran into with this thing, I don't think we showed you guys yet. So this is a TCI inner fender and a TCI front suspension, but there must have been different in like the year, different model year. So they must have changed the way the inner fender bolts to the subframe, to the front frame, because this inner fender doesn't line up with that subframe, even though it's the same manufacturer. So we just assumed, because we bought this used from a guy, and this came with that subframe, so we never checked it. Like, oh yeah, it's got holes in there. This has holes. Bad deal. So we're gonna have to drill holes into the frame and tap new holes. And these ones are actually smaller than what came in there, but they don't line up. I don't think any of them line up. So we gotta start from scratch. So the only bummer is there's gonna be a couple holes in the side, have some ventilation holes. So now that we have the core support on here, we can get this guy bolted in place and held, and then we know where this needs to be, so we don't have it crooked. All right, so we got it in. It's definitely a tight fit. Probably should have put him in first, but we didn't hurt anything. It's okay.
All right, so we were going to do some adjusting to this front end because the inner fenders are not fitting good. I'll show you that here really briefly before we start adjusting it. But the radiator fits great with our mounting that we did on the core support. It works out really well. Here's the radiator mounted. We found an upper hose that works good. And this is the breather. Just goes over to right here. It was hand tied on here, but I took it off because the radiator we're gonna take back out so we can move this around to do adjusting to this, because you can see it fits here up top, but not right here. So you almost need to push it down or something. I don't know, we need to figure out some sort of way to get this to fit well. We're gonna get the fender put on the car to figure out if the fender is gonna line up with this, or if the fender lines up with this contour, which we think it's gonna line up with this right here. And the inner fenders are fully bolted to the front, so there's no adjustment in the front. So something has to go on. It's hitting here. It's hard to see all the black on black, but it's hitting right about here, a little bit above the frame rail on the far wall. So we're gonna do a little sanding on this, and we're just gonna figure out where these inner fenders need to be placed. It's the same on both sides. They're hitting the same on both sides. We will make it work like we always do. We'll make it fit good. I'm gonna take off the radiator and this thing so we can, move this around like I already said. And the radiator also needs to be out of the way so we can work on mounting the condenser for the AC, because it's gonna be mounted on the front. Let me get the radiator out of the way now, and we can start working on that. All right, we got the last big piece, body piece to put on. It's the hood. We've been kicking this thing around for a very long time. We've been moving it all over the place. So we're very excited to finally get it on the car. So let's do it right now. Ta-da! Hood's on. One step closer to looking like a Nova.
One step closer.
Let's keep on going.
Well, as you can see from the time lapse, we got a lot going on here. We got a lot done. Still a lot of details to do. We got the inner fenders back on it. We got the front end back on it. As you can see, we had to grind the back here, give it a little massage on both sides to get it to fit the car. A lot of massaging. We had to cut the bracket here on the grill to clear the lines for the AC. We got the AC condenser in here, and you can see how we cleaned this core support up, powder coated it and everything, but we stopped here because the whole theme of the car is we're just going to leave it like a crusty car, kind of a sleeper deal. So under the hood is what's going to be all gleaming. So we just had the hood latch, and the grill was the transition coming out. From the outside, it looks like you're trying to fix up your car, but in a sense, it's already fixed up. AC's mounted, we got the lines on it. These are all done here. We got the O-rings in it, both the high side and low side. And then we got the receiver dryer mounted here, the O-ring in here. So this is all sealed and done. And then this line comes with the kit. It's kind of a hokey deal, I think, because it has this little jog in it right here. I don't know what the jog's for. This is going to go here to the evaporator, go to the receiver dryer. The jog kind of gets a little close to the headers. Maybe that's designed to go around the stock strut towers, not sure. But you can see we got the fan mounted on the radiator back in. We found a nice upper hose that worked out good. But now with the fan on it, our hard pipe we had here for the intake now hits the fan. So I got to change this configuration. I think the air filter is going to work out good right here. I just got to change the 90. I probably got to get one that's a silicone, something a little flexible. Maybe you can just blow around that. I couldn't find a hose that worked out for the lower, and I found this one with a couple bends in it, and I tried to cut it and then put a piece of hardened to connect it to, but it wasn't working out. I don't like it. So I'm going to take this off, and I got a piece of just a U-bend mandrel. It's like an exhaust pipe, just a little inch and a half, little cute little guy, stainless. But I'm gonna cut this and make it, and I'm just gonna have a piece of straight on each to connect it. So this is gonna be the lower hose. And then once we do the lower hose and the valve, we're going to put this vacuum fill the cooling system. We're gonna set up because after we do suspension and everything here pretty soon, we wanna go up and get a dyno tune, so it needs to be all ready, no air pockets in the system. So once it fires, we're going live. We're going to kill it. So you see that here where the inner fenders come to the fenders turned out really good. Turned out nice here. So that all fits good. And then the hinges worked out. The bracket that the hinges bolted to kind of was like not bent enough. So we had to pull it over. We tightened it all up, but it wasn't nothing crazy. We got the panels fitting pretty much the best we can for what we got to work with, because we're not doing all the body work of the car. We're just trying to get it looking as clean as it is for what the outside of it is. So the body lines are pretty good. We're not going to do it. I'm not going to worry about an antenna. Art Jones deal with that if he wants to put an antenna in it. We're not doing that. But body lines fitting pretty good for all in all what it is. Doors open and close. Open and close nicely. Windows down a little bit. It still needs a little adjusting. We got new felt in here. This driver's fender didn't quite fit as good. It was like pulled up. So this was a real high spot. I tried to get it down, but this is the worst of it here. But it looks like it was hitting before because it already had the chips on it. The closest point is where you close the door. When you open it, it comes away from it. So we had to like pry the fender down when we put the bottom bolts in it to get it to line up. Something's up with this fender. It was like pulled up. But if you remember before some of the earlier videos, you had to like slam the crap out of the driver's door to get it to latch. This one's a little more solid sounding because it doesn't have the weather stripping in it yet. But at least now it'll close and latch. Before you had to slam it and screw with it to get it to latch. So got that straightened out. And you can see we got the wheels torqued. Got the front and rear wheels torqued. We got the center caps on all of them. So we got that done. They're probably going to pull it off again because I know when you go to the dyno, they like to check the wheel torque just because you don't want a wheel coming off at 100 and whatever it's going to go to on the dyno. So here's the new front bumper. We still need to put on it. Brackets over here. Got the brackets. This is just the original brackets. Got them powder coated. We got a new hardware. Bumper hardware. Passenger one, somebody didn't know how to put a headlight in there. It was all upside down, cockeyed. So we're straightening that out. We gotta get some hardware to mount this still. So once we got the grill's just sitting in here. We got to pull this back out to get the headlight buckets in here. So once we get the headlight buckets, we'll get the grill final bolted in, and then we'll get the bumper on it. And then pretty much the whole front of the car sheet metal wise will be all done, and then we can do the wiring. So come on back for the next video. We're gonna get the rear suspension straightened out, adjusted, all finished, and then we're going to take it and hopefully get it aligned. So after it is dyno tuned, we can do a test drive in it. We're going to do rear suspension, alignment. We're going to work on mounting the seats. I got to do a couple things to the floor before I can run the exhaust. I'm not really worried about the AC because I can get it dyno tuned without the AC. So I just want to get a condenser and stuff in it just so I can get the front of the car all together. I'm not worried about the headlight wiring. We can dyno it without that. So I'm trying to get it running, get the dyno tune done, and then we can work out all the bugs. Give me a good like if you're excited to see this Nova finished up as much as we are. Share, subscribe, comment, tell me what you think. Come on back, man. Next time it's gonna be really close. It's gonna be almost there.